What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 597 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And today we're going to run down whatever we feel like talking about, as we usually do here, of the rumors and the news and gossip and TV recap and whatever else is happening in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days. It's been a little while since we've sat down and chatted about stuff because we recorded the main event earlier this week. But if you didn't go back and check that out, then check out our fantasy booking of the World Heavyweight Champions, which ultimately resulted in a pretty damn good card. I really wish we could have seen that at some point, but that has already happened. So you know how we round out each week, hot tags, breaking down all these things, and as we go along we do that, then we want to know what you have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what you're thinking. Are your reactions to what we're thinking? Anything along those lines. Make sure you are also hitting that like button there on YouTube and also ringing that little notification bell and clicking on the join button as well. That gets access to the same things as the Patreon, because it's just that membership side, like the Darkcast and the Pick Your Poison tier and all, which next week we are going to be having our Pick Your Poison that was sponsored by Frankie. Thank you, Frankie, for that. Where we're going to break down the Mount Rushmore of the worst wrestling gimmicks of all time. So talk about a lot of characters that were just infamously awful, like some Curran Whites and some gobbledygookers and everything along those lines. And I don't know what else we're going to end up having for next week, but, you know, I mean, in the meantime, drop your thoughts about what you'd like to see, too. That's always something that we take into account. And also hit that little thanks button if you want to toss a little spare change our way, or if you want to pick up some merchandise. You got Redbubble and TeePublic and whatever else I decide to do in the future. So future me is going to sort that all out. I'm not doing that right now. Instead, focusing on what we should talk about this week. Because to be perfectly honest, not a whole lot happening over the course of these past few days for me to write down any notes on and to really kind of build this around any huge stories or anything. Obviously, there are stories here and there, but I don't know. I mean, to be transparent, a lot of them didn't really seem like they were all that interesting in my mind to be like, you know, let's dedicate a lot of time to this and that. So it might be a shorter one. I don't know. We are going to break down as much as we can, though, and talk about that episode of Dynamite that happened and our backlash from Backlash and everything along those lines. So the first topic that we were kind of chatting about before we got started here, I guess it's like the biggest topic, but to be perfectly honest, I don't even know if it's like all that crazy, because we've had a lot of speculation for this to begin with, is about this Warner Brothers Discovery and All Elite Wrestling synergy. And the way that it seems like this is panning out, at least from my perspective, maybe you guys have some different takes to me. It seems like they're just sort of like, all right, WBD wants to lock in AEW for their main content. They want to make sure that they've got a very similar breakdown to what WWE has, because WWE has their Raw and their SmackDown and then NXT. Seems like they are just like, look, we don't want dark. We don't want being the elite. We only really want Dynamite, this Collision show, and Rampage and the pay-per-views. And over the course of their contract and stuff, $1 billion. I mean, that's not something to to bat an eye at. A lot of people are complaining online between the two warring factions, because you always have to, for some reason, oh, I'm a WWE guy, I'm an AEW guy. You can't just like enjoy shit. You have to have this like competition and all. I keep seeing takes of like, well, WWE got $5 billion over the course of 5 years, and other people go, well, yeah, it's still mathematically the same, and whoa, $200 million for each show and all that, 5 hours worth of TV and all. A lot of just like haha bullshit. I think this is a good thing. And this seems like this is a really strong vote of confidence when it comes to Warner Brothers, in my mind, at the very least. And you guys probably agree, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. They're going to really go all in, pardon the pun, on AEW. And I think that's good news for the wrestling business. Because when's the last time, you know, a network and a conglomerate really did this for something outside of WWE?
Yeah, I mean, this is, as I like, we'll know more next week with the very latest of Tony Khan's huge announcements. When I saw was it Bixen's van saying that, oh my God, Tony, you didn't say that, you said the wrong network on your announcement.
Bro.
But no, it's going to get announced on TNT because that's when they do the whole, I don't know what they refer to it as, but basically that big...
It's the upfront, I believe?
Yeah, the upfront, yeah. The upfront's when they announce these renewals and stuff that's happening. So that's when the big announcement will come. We don't know what the figure is going to be yet. The speculation is going somewhere between $1 billion and 1.2 billion. It may not be that much. It may be more. Who knows? We won't know until they announce it. But regardless, it's going to be a big increase for AEW in terms of their TV rights. It's going to bring everything under WBD, seemingly. As I say, they are full steam ahead with AEW. They're giving them more and more shows. I mean, you obviously mentioned the main three that will be going forward, but they're still, like, All Access will probably come back, and there might be some other stuff they come forward. They still do like Battle of the Belt shows. Yeah, if they bring the pay-per-views under a streaming service as well, then they're basically saying, AEW is our thing, and we're gonna invest heavily in that. And the more money they can put into AEW, it means that the more money that they will have to compete for talent, to sign them up for bigger contracts. And it's fundamentally, this is a good thing for the wrestling business and the wrestlers themselves in the battle to try and get two companies that can now battle on pretty similar footings in terms of, like, signing talent. Actually, it's really good for AEW at this point in time because, again, there's not been outwardly stated, but there's speculation that WWE in the post-Endeavor merger is on a talent hiring freeze.
Mm-hmm. It seems like that might be why Colby Carino is not popping up. There was a story that came out this week about that, where, like, he all but signed everything for his contract and then was told, we got to hold on for a little bit. So that the only thing that makes sense, at least from my perspective, is that that's part of that is, we want to sign people, but we don't want to do any of that until at least all the ink is dry on the Endeavor deal.
Yeah. I think that Sean Ross Sapp on one of his recent podcasts said that it's been about 5 months since they signed someone, like an actual roster talent. So
was Dragon Lee the last?
I believe so. It would definitely would have been one of the most recent ones.
At least the one that seems like we know for sure, because there's all that stuff about, like, is Eric Young back? Is Killian Dane back? And they're just, like, waiting in the wings, or, So maybe they might have signed some other people that are waiting that we just aren't aware of. But the last person that was announced and, like, popped up and I think was Dragon Lee.
Yeah. So... yeah, and there's just interesting speculation, certain people's contracts coming up. I mean, the one that we'll be talking about this guy slightly later on when we're doing, like, predictions, but Edge's contract is supposedly due fairly soon, or at least that's being speculated online. I don't know for certain because I don't have the contract in front of me, but that would be an interesting one as well. I assume that probably won't go anywhere, but it's nice to have discussion up, and that's the beauty of first AEW existing, but then also now that they will be on this, it's certainly not equal footing because WWE is on significantly higher TV deals. They have so much more equity behind them that they can do more, and it's seemingly when their TV rights deals come up for renewal, they'll probably get more money out than they currently already have, which I believe between Raw and SmackDown at the very least is $2 billion for those two shows alone. So they'll probably brand out, whether it's on Fox or whatever, somebody will pay a significant amount because that's what they do now. Live sports is the hot ticket item.
Especially with the writer's strike going on. Because, I mean, if this continues quite a bit longer, I don't really expect that to be the case. You would assume, most strikes that end up being, like, affecting a huge amount like that. It's not like it lasts, 2 years or something. But the last major strike that we had, that was a considerable chunk of time. It ended up interfering with a lot of movies, a lot of TV and all. And if we get a couple more months down the road with this or something, then these live sports that you don't really 100% need writers for, look back in the day, they didn't have a writing team. They didn't have the Writing Actors Guild or anything like that. The Writers Guild and the Writing Actors Guild, it makes no sense. Yeah, I mean, this could be the type of lucrative thing where people are just like, we really need a lot of game shows. We really need we saw a lot of that the last time. So for all we know, this could end up being a great thing just specifically for WWE even. It's like the spillover.
We will find out on Wednesday whether or not the deal is actually as astronomical as it seems. I think it's great that they're doing Collision. The more I hear about the way things are going to change, I'm in favor of a company trying to do this because let's tell the truth, no one has really attempted to do the 2 major shows platform since Raw and SmackDown, and this is going to be 2 hours on a Saturday night, which is a great night because there's nothing else going on. You're really, you have that night to yourself to try to get this audience. And the only thing I can say about this from a TV perspective is I hope they don't do a brand split in the way that people have seemingly thought they're going to. But they're making moves for a big show, and if you believe Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it's going to be called The Second Coming, this first episode of Collision. And I like the way things are going a lot.
Well, they are making moves for a big show, but I don't know if Paul White's part of the mix.
I mean, he's been saying he wants to wrestle for quite some time, and he ain't doing commentary on Dark Elevation anymore.
That is true.
So
Captain Insano maybe pop up, but that's actually worth spinning off into another one of these things, which is we saw on Dynamite. So we're kind of talking a little bit about the recap stuff, but we saw the return of Miro after all this time, and there's this old Thunder Rosa thing that we had talked about before, that the very strong chance that they separate some people that don't necessarily get along. So the Britt Baker side of it could be on Dynamite, and the Thunder Rosa side, whether or not she's ready to go, which it seems like she probably still isn't, but it's a possibility. She could be a big focal point of Collision going forward. Speculation that CM Punk is not only the main reason why this is called The Second Coming, but that he might be starting a feud with Samoa Joe going forward. Maybe that's why we haven't seen as much going on with Joe. I don't know. I mean, we talked about a lot of that before with, if we were going to brand split things, what would we do? How would we separate these people and all? I don't want a brand split, like a true Raw and SmackDown hard line. These people don't wrestle on the other show and we've got to create new belts and all that other kind of crap. But I also kind of don't see how they can get away with only booking the same people on the same shows and not making it seem a little bit awkward, especially when it comes to the pay-per-views. So I'm curious about that. We've never really seen that happen before. Even in WWE, when they do the brand split, it's not because people don't necessarily get along where you have to separate them. You know what I mean? That's a different animal. Not Batista.
Right. Well, first of all, Miro returning was a genuine shock and a genuine delight. Thunder Rosa, same thing, but with her it was more of, oh, good, it's about time. Okay, cool. Like she's in. The interesting part of it all to me was this is the first time that in universe you've established Tony Khan has an office that people can just walk into and complain. And this is the first time TK showed up on TV without it being a Tony Khan gonna make a massive announcement and building that up all week. I wonder if we're gonna see a little bit more of Tony Khan in universe going forward.
He's gonna start winning championships, and he's gonna put a do-rag on, and he's
That's I would rather die.
Well, the Punk and Joe idea, you guys on board with that, or do you think that there are better alternatives that you'd rather explore?
But when you say on board with that, do you mean hey, are you do you want to see that? Because I would rather see, if CM Punk only had one more match, I'd rather it be with Samoa Joe than almost anyone. My God, I'm on board for it. Yes.
Yeah, as a big time match between the two, I don't think it necessarily needs to have like a 1 or 2 month feud surrounding it, but as a big time match through his return, wherever that return match ends up being, whether it's on that show itself or somewhere else, then yeah, that's a really big thing to put out there. I would say that Samoa Joe, he quote unquote hasn't been seen, but he's appearing every week on Ring of Honor, so
Yeah.
Tony doesn't watch
doing
ROH.
stuff.
No, but I mean, as far as that split between AEW and ROH, because they are trying to essentially keep some people separate like that too. So, if they make this a big thing about Collision is revolving around Joe and the ROH World Television Championship, then that's a little strange to me,
I think it'll just be a match. I don't think it'll be for the television title. It'll just be, first of all, Joe could lose the title by that point. Because it's still, say it's middle of June that happens, so he could lose the title beforehand. And then secondly, you don't have to have the match for the title if you do decide to have the match between the two of them.
And it's also important to note that the report from Sean says that he would like to work with Joe. That doesn't mean that Joe has to be his first program.
Yeah. Who's Joe currently feuding with? Do you guys know offhand?
He's just defending the title in matches on Ring. He's not really. He doesn't have a designated feud. His most recent program was with Christopher Daniels on ROH. Okay.
Not that he's currently being every time that he has a match,
someone walks out.
I don't know, Dalton Castle pops up and watches it or some kind of shit like that.
No.
However, they did make it clear, Mark Briscoe said on last night's episode of Ring of Honor that he wants the TV title and it's still his destiny. So they're still going in that direction. Finish the story, if you
well, maybe it won't take until WrestleMania 40 time frame for that to happen. So, I mean, that's kind of the big stuff to talk about for this week. There are some little things here and there. Some of them we're not even going to bother with, but another thing that's been going on is that there's more talk about setting up more matches for Sting and Goldberg, kind of rounding out their careers outside of obviously WWE, and Goldberg's contract ended with that. So already I've seen too, on top of that, the idea of then he might return to WWE at some point after that anyway. This idea of capping it off. I mean, we're not going to do a whole episode of one more match quite yet, but what would you like to see happen with Sting and Goldberg?
Well, it's important to note that this is Rick Bassman did an interview with Nick Houseman and said that planning an Israel tour for wrestling. And I know that is a bit of a hotbed, and Goldberg has shown interest in the past, and it was reported by Fightful before this that Goldberg could be headed over to Israel. I don't think it'll be a final match scenario, but I could see them being a tag team along, someone who could do more of the heavy lifting and allow them to have that kind of WCW connection for a market that doesn't get a lot of live pro wrestling.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that those shows would be the ones where you see the final matches of either Sting or Goldberg, but it's probably a nice payday for them. They probably don't have to do too much. They'd either work with local talent or they just do a basic match with each other. I mean, that would be fun. People will tune in if you see Sting versus Goldberg as the main event of a show, even in 2023. So, but yeah, I don't see that being the curtain call on either of their careers just yet.
I can see it potentially with Goldberg. Maybe just not necessarily that it's 100% planned to be that, but that he has a match in that capacity, and then it's I'd be comfortable with this being the last match, that sort of thing.
I'm pretty sure that maybe he would be happy with that, but I think WWE would pay him a lot to make sure they get his final match.
And let's tell the truth here. Goldberg is the only wrestler I can think of that has had a much better career post-retirement than he did in the actual, like, 3 to 5 years he was an active wrestler. I think this is not his last. I think he's just, like Callum said, it's a nice payday, and they can go over there and treat an audience that does not get this. I would not want to see them wrestle each other under any circumstances. Goldberg, I saw him drop The Undertaker on his head. I don't want to see him do that to Sting.
Yeah, I would much rather it be Sting and Goldberg team up with 1 or 2 other people to have like a 6-man or an 8-man tag team match or something.
Like Darby, like Sting takes Darby because he's taking Darby everywhere with him, and
Goldberg's got like Wardlow by his side or something, or I don't know.
Sunberg.
Yeah, sorry, Sunberg.
In terms of like what I'd want to see from like Sting final match in general, if we're just going to speculate about that, I think his final match should be against MJF. Make that just a random title match on TV.
I'd like it better than just the generic Darby thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just title versus career.
Yeah.
One final shot.
Give MJF another little boost where it's like, and I retired Sting. Haha.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I'd
win.
Yeah, I'd still be cool with the Darby thing, but I just don't think Darby and Sting need to feud with each other.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're not going to. I think they just have a tag match. I'd like to see them feud with the Bucks because Sting hasn't done a Young Bucks match, but I think the Young Bucks are like full babyface now, so that likely wouldn't happen.
He did wrestle the Bucks, didn't he? At Forbidden Door.
That's right. Wow, that's right. Yeah. I would love to see Sting and Darby go for the tag team titles. There's a lot you can do with Sting, which is very weird because he was supposed to have permanently retired like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Wrestling business is so weird, isn't it?
It really is.
People just come and go.
It's just the word
Some
retirement.
stay way too long here.
Word retirement means absolutely nothing, except for the moment that it means something. But yeah, a lot of AEW stuff like that, and jack all when it comes to WWE. Like there's nothing going on right now. We will talk about like the TV stuff and all, but I don't remember coming across a single story that really felt like, man, we gotta break that down on the hot tags later on. There are things like little stuff about, like, oh, well, what's happening with the Vince McMahon sign backstage got potentially switched over to Triple H's office, or more about like post-draft things like, oh, they're going to start pushing Cameron Grimes or something, which is like, it's kind of obvious. I mean, that's the reason why they brought these people up, and but I don't know of anything else. So maybe we're missing something, and if we are, drop a comment and ask us, like what our opinions will.
Well, hold on. Let's talk a little bit. Callum, we didn't get your opinion on Backlash. Specifically, did you watch the Bad Bunny match, and how did you feel about the return of Carlito?
The return of Carlito, I think that's just like not just a one-off thing. That's
look with the pop he got, I can see them going, we can milk it, I'm
not hiring anyone at the moment, are they? So
that's true.
I did see parts of the match. I would say full disclosure, I did not watch all of Backlash because I don't want to. I don't want to watch WWE anymore. But I saw the absolute insane reaction for him coming out for his entrance, and yeah, he's the biggest star. He's one of the biggest stars in the world right now, and you just felt it. I just wonder, and obviously he's he's a big WWE fan, and so that's probably the biggest part of it, of course. Just like, why is he doing this? It's like, why does he doesn't need to do this. He doesn't need to do any of this stuff, but clearly he's someone who just, he's made so many headways in music that you just say, okay, I just want to do this for a little while, and I'm just going to have fun doing this for a bit, and then I'll go play professional soccer somewhere, or just like, or something along those lines. He'll find other things to do as well in the meantime. But yeah, that was a insane reaction for that entire match and segment, and he is a lot better performer than a lot of people in NXT.
It's Rodman. Like, he has no need to do this, and he's tremendous at it. And the reason I bring this up is because Savio Vega, who was also at Backlash and got a monster pop because Puerto Rico is just on fire, did an interview with Bill Apter of Wrestle Binge and said that he's heard they want to bring Bad Bunny in for SummerSlam. And I guess we could speculate. What would you guys do with Bad Bunny at SummerSlam?
Offhand, I can't think of anything that's like an obvious creative direction. Because he's had this connection between, I mean, like, obviously the Royal Rumble, he just pops up for the Royal Rumble itself. But the Damian Priest thing with The Miz and all, okay, that carries over into this. And then we've got now Judgment Day is going to be separate from the LWO. But I would assume he probably would still be associated with the LWO. Just kind of keep that going. So who does the LWO necessarily feud with around that time that could be reciprocal to that? I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be like Bad Bunny against Roman Reigns, but it could be.
Why not? Like,
it could be. Like,
I've been beating this drum. There's no reason not to do this. Like,
he's had a good performance here and there, so it's like the Logan Paul thing worked out. Like, if you want to get people to really, really pay attention to it, that wouldn't be a bad decision.
I think people probably jumping the gun a little bit too much for thinking he's going to wrestle at like SummerSlam. He's had 3 matches and they've been spread out over the course of like 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like so I think suggesting like, oh, he'll wrestle at SummerSlam or he'll turn up at WrestleMania next year. It's like, no, he'll turn up when he wants to because he has that right to do whatever he wants, really.
Yeah, he could be busy too. I mean, he's got other shit. It's not like he's just doing this.
He might appear in like a segment at SummerSlam or something like that, or like accompany LWO for a big match. Like, but I think people will probably jump in the gun and think like he's got a lot of commitments, I imagine, but he can't just devote a lot of time to WWE.
I don't know what his tour schedule is like at the moment, but I'm sure. Well,
the reason why he did this because it's their first big show in Puerto Rico in years and years and years and years. So yeah, of course he's going to show up for that one. So that SummerSlam's anywhere special for him.
Yeah, I was going to say for him. Yeah,
sorry,
it's
like
Detroit. Nowhere special. None of you in Detroit matter, according to them. No, I'm just kidding.
Detroit was great at Dynamite, so yeah, they deserve a show like that. So and then no issues with Detroit, but I don't think that it means that much to Bad Bunny to be in Detroit.
But I'm sure that WWE has had at least one discussion with him of like, let's see when we can get you back. Would you be interested in popping up for SummerSlam? It's our next biggest show. And, I mean, there's always that whole, you leave that on the table. And if we can work something out, then we'll work something out. I don't know if that's at all part of their actual plans. I highly doubt it. Like, I'm not anticipating Bad Bunny to be a part of SummerSlam, but stranger things have happened, so you never really know. And if they've got as few people as they do to feud with Roman Reigns, it'd be a great way to just do the LWO versus the Bloodline, have a Rey Mysterio match leading up to that, have it afterward or something along those lines. If you want to kind of build the idea of like, you take care of like Lashley or you take care of Styles ahead of time and you do whatever, then by the time we get through Money in the Bank and all, I mean, SummerSlam moves you a little bit closer towards the next Saudi show, I'm assuming, probably in September, November. Probably Crown Jewel around that time. And then you're at Survivor Series already, and suddenly Roman Reigns didn't need to do a damn thing. Currently, it seems the speculation I'm seeing online as far as the future for Roman, and I think that Rob's going to be like, well, what the hell? Is that he is not going to defend that belt in Saudi, and that it's going to be Solo and Roman against Sami and Kevin. Which is like, okay, so then Roman takes...
Sami can't go to Saudi, man. Like,
I don't know. I mean, could be a deal worked out, could be something, but at the very least, we know that they have not quite yet pitched this at all, from what I've seen, as being a true Night of Champions. I haven't heard a single every belt's on the line because that's Night of Champions, whatever. It seems like they just quite literally said the word champion is something we have on there. Why don't we do that? And that's lame. That sucks. But let's get into some of the speculation about that too. Let's toss out some predictions for SmackDown tonight, because to go back and talk about Monday Night Raw and kind of look forward, bounce around here with SmackDown. One of the main things that we had for Raw this week was the 2 triple threat matches and then the semifinals match to determine the Red Brand's side of that world title match. So Rollins, Nakamura, and Priest all had their first triple threat match. Seth Rollins comes out on top of that one. Second triple threat match was the Miz and Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor, which was, we all saw this coming from a mile away. Cody Rhodes gets interrupted with Brock Lesnar attacking him. That leads to a match being announced that Cody is going to fight Brock in what they are really harping on, a fight.
It's a fight.
They have not said it's no DQ. They have not said it's a street fight. They've not introduced any element like that, but they keep harping on, it's a fight this time. So Rhodes loses that. He's out of the competition. It's Finn Balor, and that sets up Rollins against Balor. And Rollins comes out on top. So it's Seth Rollins on the left-hand side of this whole graphic and all. And we all saw that coming from a mile away, too. I'm shocked that they did this all in one night. Like, I know that they had announced it ahead of time, but I still thought, like, okay, we'll get the 2 triple threat matches, and then next week we'll get the semifinals or something.
Yeah, because now you have 4 shows and 2 weeks where you have to kind of build tension between Seth Rollins and a superstar that he cannot interact with because they are on separate brands.
Weird, right?
They've just, left maybe an Edge as a free agent. That way we can kind of clarify these things. I'm not going to complain too much, though, because the triple threats on Raw were fun. I thought Finn versus Seth was fun. We're getting an amazing dream match of a 3-way with Edge, AJ Styles, and Rey Mysterio tonight. And I just think that that's the coolest fucking thing ever. Like, I don't even care if it doesn't live up to what, 9-year-old, 10-year-old me would have wanted. But the idea that it's happening is just my favorite thing in the world. And I want to shout out Edge for putting a nice little video on social media about how he wants to win the world title because he never actually lost the world title. And it looks like the title that he didn't lose, even though, some will disagree. And then he laid it out. He's like, I want to win this. It's finishing my story. And then once I lose the title, I'll comfortably retire because I did it my way. Like,
he did more in that little 2-minute thing that was like on TikTok or something. He did more on that to sell me on being interested in the World Heavyweight Championship than anything else. Like, to be perfectly honest, like, look, I'm a fan of Rollins, fan of Nakamura, fan of Priest, all the people fighting for this on both sides. I don't care. Like, I think that this just seems so B-level silver medal shit, and they haven't convinced me otherwise. But Edge pulling that out made me go, fuck, I want Edge to win now. Because then I'm going to be invested in Edge's upcoming matches going forward. And maybe we just, switch them over to Raw and what's done is done. But I liked that. I don't buy it by any means, but I was like, you got me. You sold me on that part, at least.
I know why they put him on SmackDown. They put him on SmackDown because the August 18th episode is the one in Toronto, and he's flat out said, next year when we come to Toronto is where I will probably retire. But, again, you could have left him as a free agent to do his thing, because even though the entire point of this belt is, well, we got to, have something for younger people to fight for, even though I guess that's the way it's been perceived. The reality here is, if you're going to give it to a younger person, then Austin Theory should win this title. Because everyone else in this tournament has either held the belt or is, Priest is no spring chicken. He's 41. I think Damian Priest is phenomenal, and age isn't what it used to be. But you can't use the excuse of that young talent, Damian Priest. Yes, there's a difference between, TV age in terms of how exposed you've been and actual age. But I see no harm here in just at least letting Edge get to the finals. I think we've all said it's Rollins' belt to win. But what I would like to see here is Edge wins this, and then I want to see Sheamus win his. And then you get Edge versus Sheamus, because that's a match they both said they wanted to do. And for the love of God, if he's retiring this year, let's put Edge in some matches against some people that we haven't necessarily seen him clash with. Like, that should be the point of all of this. And the only person I can totally write off in his triple threat is Ray, because I think AJ would be fun to go all the way because he and Rollins put on a good match. And I just think Edge should probably go all the way. But it speaks volumes as to just what you can do when you tell a 2-minute story on social media. Like, that's all he had to do, and everybody went, that makes sense. They should put the belt on Edge.
The logic behind it is the easy part, and sometimes that's the biggest thing missing from a lot of these stories. Is like, if you give me an explanation, then I'll suspend my disbelief. And if you just go, it's happening because fuck you, whatever, then you go, I can't get into anything. Like, why are we doing the Raw and SmackDown thing? Well, we all know that it's because they just want to bump up the ratings for this episode of SmackDown. But they can't say that. So then instead of just taking a minute and being like, well, okay, because the contract said that it was anybody eligible to win the title, or, something along those lines, then, you put in a little bit of effort and I'll reciprocate. But I'm not seeing anybody like really making the argument, hey, the reason why Austin Theory is going to win, or the reason why Sheamus is going to win, is going to be whatever, or anybody else except for Edge. But this changed my perspective of this, because the triple threat matches that we're going to get on SmackDown tonight are, as Rob was mentioning, we got Rey Mysterio against AJ Styles against Edge, and then we got Bobby Lashley against Austin Theory against Sheamus. I was already assuming before probably AJ Styles would win that one with Edge and Mysterio, and probably Theory would win the other one, and then it would be like, okay, Styles beats Theory, and it's going to be Styles against Rollins. But now I'm kind of thinking it might be Edge against Rollins. So as far as predictions go, how do you guys think this is going to pan out tonight?
I think I'm going to go with my heart rather than my gut and say Edge wins, Sheamus wins. They have just a respectful babyface match. You get Edge, Rollins, and then Rollins beats Edge. What do you think, Cal?
I think that's probably the most logical trajectory of things.
Yeah, because you can put, like, the AJ Theory thing makes sense in the vein that, okay, Styles and Rollins go on to have a banger, and then AJ can immediately pivot and go, well, I beat Theory, I want a title shot.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, the clock is ticking on almost everybody in this tournament except for Austin Theory, and I just want to see some cool stuff happen. Even Edge versus Lashley isn't like a crazy dream match of mine, but do that. They haven't done that. You haven't seen that match happen, like, do a match that you haven't done. That is my goal with this SmackDown.
Yeah, I'd much rather see Edge against Sheamus right now on SmackDown tonight than to just see Edge against Theory again, even. Not that that was like a huge feud like it was with like the Finn Balor shit or whatever, but like, yeah, I mean.
But still, you did it.
Do it for the sake of doing something different, yeah.
What was that stat going around about how old the participants in this tournament was? Was it something like there's only one person under the age of like 37 or 38 in this tournament?
Yeah, I mean...
That theory, yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't read that, but that's kind of what I was saying, where I had texted a friend about this, and she was saying, I'd like to see them give it to a young guy like Priest, and I said, go Google Priest. Like, I get it. I like Priest too, and I'm glad he's getting his moment to shine, because people don't realize, I think, how, when you're on the indies for that long, you can sort of become jaded, and I'm so happy for him, and he should get a chance to be world champion one day. But honestly, you're not making a new guy anyway with this belt. It's not like Rollins hasn't been WWE world champion. It's not like he hasn't done everything. Just do something for the sake of making it seem prestigious. And that is what that promo did from Edge.
Mm-hmm.
Made the belt completely like, oh, cool. You have a built-in story if you go this route. Not saying that they will, but at least there's a story there. And you start going, well, if Edge goes up against, if you put him in the ring with Theory, does Theory get to retire Edge? If you put him in the ring with Dominic Mysterio, does Dom get to... You start telling those stories in your mind, and I think that that's more exciting than so many things.
Yeah, like is Edge the guy that drops the belt to Gunther or something? That's infinitely more interesting to me than just, okay, well, Rollins wins because we expect Rollins to win, and he feuds with 3 guys going forward. He drops the belt around Survivor Series to a heel, and then a babyface wins the Royal Rumble, and then babyface beats that champion at WrestleMania just for the sake of having a couple title changes because Roman's not. Because that's what I expect. I'm still firmly in the boat of Roman's not dropping that belt until after Mania 40. So,
even a guy like, well, let's say Edge wins the belt, he could have a phenomenal program on the microphone. Cody, even just a one-night deal. Like, and you mentioned Gunther, like an Ivan Drago kind of. If he dies, he dies, and it's just powerbomb after powerbomb after powerbomb, and you can like tease the next. We're just throwing out ideas here, and that's why the more I talk about it, the more I go. Even, super fandom aside, maybe the move here is Edge.
My brain and my heart, the two differences between them. My brain goes, doesn't matter, it's gonna be Rollins. My heart goes, man, now I'm 100% rooting for Edge. So we'll figure out tonight who ends up being on the opposite side of Rollins for Night of Champions, and we'll obviously also have some other things happening on SmackDown tonight, like the women's tag team titles is on the line. That's highly doubtful. That's just going to go right back to Damage Control, but it could, because it is the women's tag titles. They don't seem to have much of a game plan for that, and whatever. I don't think anybody's really like, that's the big thing. You guys think we're going to get any like full on, I don't know, progression with the Roman Reigns and the Usos thing, or is it just going to be another bullshit? Hey, he's kind of upset with you, and if you don't turn things around, then we're going to talk about this another 17 times. That's what I'm anticipating, at least.
My hope at this point is he just fucks up Jey Uso. Because it's another thing I want to talk about this too, because talking to another friend who said, oh, it really needs to be Jey that beats him. No. Like, I don't know what. I understand it started with Jey, and you can have like the disintegration of the bloodline with Jey just fighting him. But I think you need to get out of the way, and I think you need to move, man. This bloodline storyline is so stagnant. You need to move it. If they don't do something tonight, if it's literally just, well, what are you guys going to do? Even if you lead to, okay, it's Roman and Solo against the Usos at Champions, and there's no title on the line. I don't need him to defend. I just need him to show up. Like, I'm not desperate for anything in particular with Roman. But I'd like to see some progression here because I don't want another week of we're going to talk about it because Roman is losing patience with you.
Yeah, for somebody who's losing patience, he's very, very patient. He's been losing patience for the bloodline, whether it's like
February, like 3 months at least.
Well, if you go back to like the Sami Zayn thing, it was like, oh, he's losing patience with whether or not they're getting along and all for well over a year. It's pretty patient. You would think that a guy in his position would be like, I gave you 3 weeks. Fuck you. We're going to sort this out. But no, they're really milking the hell out of that.
And it's sour milk.
Yeah.
Right.
Used to be whole milk. It's a little weak now. It's a little more like skim. So what else is happening on is it anything else that's been advertised for SmackDown? I don't think so, right?
The women's tag team title match.
Mentioned that already.
Yeah, outside of that though. Oh, it's Cameron Grimes against Baron Corbin is happening, which is like, okay, Baron Corbin loses.
I hope we see the debut of Pretty Deadly tonight.
Yes, boy.
I would love to see. Baron Corbin did an interview with Catch Club in France, where he talked about wanting to incorporate some more of the original elements of his character, and I desperately want to see Baron Corbin be taken seriously. I think the ship might have sailed, but perhaps it's never too late. Am I wrong for thinking we should put the women's tag titles on Bayley and Dakota just so that you can get Bayley on both shows? If you're gonna do that stupid rule, at least put them on someone who can really deliver on both shows.
I know I would disagree. I think that Bayley is stagnant as all hell.
But like more stagnant than Raquel, who has a back. I don't know if like that's her whole gimmick is still I have a back.
See, I'd argue Raquel isn't stale. She just hasn't been doing anything. Like she's perpetually stuck at the square one level. Whereas Bayley, I know every single promo that she's going to cut. And I don't want to just have like Damage Control popping up between both shows and then seeing the same entrance, then the ding dong hello and all. I want Bayley to turn babyface at this point. I'm past heel Bayley.
I'm just taking a look at the card. No, there's nothing else, and there really doesn't need to be anything else because when you have 3 matches, this tournament,
it's a 2-hour show.
Title match and Roman. I think that's actually a pretty great lineup.
I'm sure we'll get some other backstage segments and stuff. Like we'll get, you mentioned like Pretty Deadly might be popping up just to have some sort of spat with the Brawling Brutes or something, or they'll do something along those lines. But 5 matches. With that in mind, and a Roman Reigns return, which is going to take up a good 15 minutes just for the promo because his entrance and all is going to take time. You're looking at the bulk of the show. I don't think that Cameron Grimes Baron Corbin match is going to be anything super long. So they're going to cram in some stuff here and there, and obviously we get commercials because fuck you, you're not paying for this without commercials anymore, are you? The way the cable is, but backtracking to Monday Night Raw a little bit, the other things that happened that I guess are worth talking about. I don't know. For some of them they are for sure. Like, Zoe Stark had her debut. She beat Nikki Cross. Good for her. Trish cut a promo. I was not digging the Trish promo. Did you guys like it?
No, not really. But I think it's just because it feels like a foregone conclusion, all of this. I'm glad she's getting the chance to play heel, but it hasn't really been doing much for me.
Now I know that you don't watch it live, Callum, but
WWE anymore.
But do you watch at least a little bit of these highlights?
Nope.
You didn't even see anything from the Raw side?
Nope.
So it doesn't entice you for me to say Rhea Ripley beat Dana Brooke. Huh?
I know who came out. I know who came out afterwards, which is meant to be making me excited.
Yep.
Fucking Natalia's gonna feud with her now.
Yeah, that's a dud.
encouraged me to look up things. Again, I should have looked up a bit more closely just because I didn't watch it, but I heard that was going to be the case, so I just checked it out. I think she's won one televised match in the last 2 years.
Natty, you mean?
Singles match, yeah, in the last 2 years or so.
I want to say that can't be true, but I'm sure it is.
Well, the one that was most recent victory that she had one-on-one. I know she's won tag team matches in the meantime as well, but latest victory one-on-one match was that was it a dungeon match with Aaliyah on SmackDown? That was the follow-up to Aaliyah beating her in less than 3 seconds.
Doesn't work if you count 3 properly, but okay.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's always good that Rhea's just gone from one challenger who doesn't ever win on TV to another challenger who never wins on TV after fighting someone else who never wins on TV. So that's it's really some strong competition there on the Raw side.
We missed out on the most interesting part of this. Wasn't the match or Natty popping up afterward. It was the unfortunate scenario where Dana Brooke's coming out and she's posing, and she's trying to she's trying to slap the hands of everybody, and the one kid, she's just hey, what's up, buddy? And the kid doesn't do anything, so she kind of forces a fist bump in some way. I felt so bad for that moment because it's just oh man, that sucks. And at the same time, a hashtag of "Give Dana Brooke a chance" trended for a little bit.
No, it didn't.
Aimed at that kid.
Oh, it was on my sidebar. Yeah.
You just aimed at that kid.
So it's just, they obviously sent Dana Brooke out there to lose to Rhea, so she just gets a submission win and squashes somebody and all. But to follow it up with Natty, look, Natty is a future Hall of Famer. We've talked about that a million times and all, but if you don't give anybody momentum, who the fuck cares? Natty's not got a chance to win that. So why should I have any, she's been building up steam and who knows what? Nah, she's not going to beat Rhea. So
it's just literally to put Natty in the ring with Rhea and
to cross off another person before you get into the people that you really want to have her feud with.
Right. And Natty's in that Ziggler role where it's just hey, she's here and she's going to be credible for the next 3 weeks because we need someone for Rhea to beat. And I like Natty, but honestly, that's not even the main story with this Rhea Ripley thing. Are they going to... There's been no belt swap. Bianca's on the poster for Night of Champions with the Raw title. She's on SmackDown. Are they going to rename these belts at least? Or are we really going to... Because here's the thing. I wouldn't be surprised if we're just going to go a year with the Raw Women's Champion being on SmackDown because it's... Why not at this point?
It's weird that they didn't address it in the slightest bit. Because this was supposed to be when the brand split took effect. And they acted like it was nothing different whatsoever. It was just we got the SmackDown Women's Champion over here defending that belt on Raw. Huh? Yeah, why?
Yeah, you thought they were going to at least milk it to Raw, and then they would be okay, we're going to have the champion swap.
Yeah, because they did the whole thing with Bianca is now the longest reigning champion and all. So I'm it makes sense that they waited, and then they go, well, the pay-per-view's out of the way. You defended it successfully, but now we have to switch the belts because we named them after the fucking brands. And I don't know. They did just switch over the World Heavyweight Championship and all. Maybe there is a plan in mind to not have it be the Raw Women's Champion and the SmackDown Women's Champion. Maybe they're planning on just calling it the Women's Universal Championship and the Women's WWE Championship or something, and we're going to get new belts. Or maybe we're going to do this bullshit of having the wrong belt on the opposite side.
I'd be all right with the new belts coming at Night of Champions. That at least plays into a little bit of a Night of Champions aspect where you can be it's a new era and doing this. I just wanted to call attention to that because as of right now, it doesn't seem like there's any plan to put the belt that is named after the one brand on the proper show.
I really hope somebody on those media calls in the future, if they do one for Saudi or whatever, instead of doing the typical crap that you normally do where it's well, are you excited about coming back to Saudi again? This has been lucrative. Are you continuing the deal going forward now that Endeavor's whatever? And then you can go and get the same ridiculous response. Well, we've had a really good deal going with Saudi Arabia, and we would like to explore those things, but we are always looking for other options. I hate that crap. Somebody just go, the fuck's happening with the Raw and SmackDown women's titles? Because even if Triple H just responds with, we've got a plan in mind and stay tuned, it'll just be something. It's a reminder, if they're not paying attention to it, to be like, yeah, we've noticed that you didn't fucking figure that out, But then again, hey, it seems like only one or two people are willing to have the balls to ask somewhat decent questions on these things. That was a weird thing. It was weird that they just decided, hey, we've got the brand split is taken into effect right now. Let's specify that Mustafa Ali, our free agent, should beat Otis. We're going to carve out a part of the show for that. Huh? Why wasn't that like JD McDonough or somebody?
By the way, wasn't there an official tweet from WWE that Ali had been drafted to NXT?
I don't know.
I mean, whatever. I understand why Kellen doesn't want to watch this show. I don't blame him.
Yeah. We've never had a debate about that. It's all been 3 on.
You see this shit, it kind of just makes you go, okay, but why is anyone supposed to care? Again, that's what I enjoyed about the Edge promo in 2 minutes on social media. Oh, cool. A reason to care.
Yeah. And again, didn't take a lot of effort. He set up a phone. And he was like, hey, remember how that happened? Well, me want win belt. And then you're like, yep. Oh, me want see you win belt. Ooga booga, we're all cavemen here.
Finally something that the WWE fans can understand.
Yeah. Well, those fans need those recaps and stuff because they have the memory of a fucking fly, right?
I bet they don't even show that fucking promo on SmackDown. That's how
they probably don't.
Oh, they will not.
No.
Nope.
At most, Wade Barrett or most likely Michael Cole will go. And remember, the last time that Edge was holding a championship, he didn't even lose the belt. And then that'll be it. And then,
But of course, it wasn't that title, even though it looks just like that title.
Yeah. And they still haven't addressed, of course, whether or not this is carrying over that lineage or anything. I'm assuming we're not going to find any of that information out until the Raw after Night of Champions when they've changed the website.
Yeah, once they change the website, we're going to know.
Yeah. Which they finally changed some parts of the website. If you go to the Superstars page, even though it's not fully set up yet, that NXT Heritage Cup is not in the top bar with the champions for NXT like they would be for the other things. They did finally swap a few of the belts on that little slider around. So now the NXT Heritage Cup, which they still haven't changed that, it still says NXT UK Heritage Cup, is before the outdated Divas Championship and all. So it's like, oh, you finally went, copy paste move, there you go. But they still have it, the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles, the women's tag titles and all the NXT things are still after the 24/7 championship. They still don't want to move that thing. I don't get it. But then again, I'm a nitpicker when it comes to that. So that was Raw in a lot of ways. The only other thing happening was Imperium and then Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So they sort of rushed that already, which I don't know why they got that out of the way so quickly, because I would have thought that would have been a hell of a feud going forward. So I guess they'll revisit it down the line, and they just wanted to do something for the sake of it. But I think they could have waited on that front, especially because Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens won. So
yeah, I wasn't a fan of how quickly that ended, or the fact that they didn't have Imperium go over.
Mm-hmm.
Raw was pretty flat to me. There was a big thing of, the Way is back together. Yeah, they should have done that 6 months ago. But I understand, but it should have been done a while ago.
They teased that could have been potentially maybe Ciampa's going to come back and join them, which he should, because he's part of the family.
Yeah, and at this point, it gives you a women's tag team with Candice and
Indy.
And it gives you a tag team with DIY. You could have a tag team of Johnny and Dexter. I'd rather not.
Yeah. There is a topic, I guess, kind of somewhat worth talking about if you're doing with the whole, like, the scandalous side of the hot tags and all. No Matt Riddle this week, and it happens to be that he popped up somewhere else. Oh, that's bad wording. I shouldn't have said it though.
Yeah, I was like, bad time for a pun.
Well, another leak happened with Matt Riddle, and I'm sure you could find it if you're looking for it. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about with me necessarily saying it. So screw you, YouTube algorithm. I'm not going to say it and get caught. But that's, the big story, of course, is another thing happening with Riddle on that front, which, if you are into the whole gossipy side of it, that's something for you to, I was going to say sink your teeth into. Damn it. Why am I saying these things? Let's go to NXT, talk about that. The NXT Women's Championship tournament started because of the whole Indy Hartwell vacating that belt thing. Mm-hmm. Tiffany Stratton beat Gigi Dolan. Later on in the night, Lyra Valkyria beat Kiana James. And of course, we have the bracket set up for that, so we know how some of this is going to play out and all. More matches coming up in the future. They didn't want to. Man, I was going to, after the Riddle thing, I probably shouldn't say they didn't want to blow their load in one shot. Get my mind out of the gutter when it comes to that. So we're going to have in the future Roxanne Perez against JC Jane. The winner of that's going to fight Tiffany Stratton. So that's pretty obviously it's Roxanne Perez is going to beat JC Jane there and to fight Roxanne. And Fallon Henley and Cora Jade are going to go up against each other. And since Fallon Henley and Kiana James is no longer on the table because Lyra Valkyria wins, all right, we're getting the rematch of Lyra Valkyria against Cora Jade. I'm assuming NXT Battleground is Roxanne Perez against Cora Jade. And
I'm not happy.
All the more reason for me to be like, yeah, I am still harping on Cora Jade's winning that belt.
I should have picked Cora Jade over Stratton for my fantasy league, and I'm not happy about it. But yeah, it looks like it's Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez. Hopefully, we could still go with Tiffany. Maybe so.
I mean, they could technically have like Tiffany against Lyra, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Any predictions when it comes to that, Callum?
Did you draft? Which one of us drafted Cora?
I did.
I know it wasn't me. Oh, well.
Out of if those are what the brackets look like, you would say Cora is probably the most likely choice. But they could go multiple different directions with it. I think that I'd say the most likely one's probably Cora or Roxanne to win it back.
Yeah, I mean, it could very easily just be Roxanne wins it back. That's not off the table.
You're definitely going to watch Battleground over Double or Nothing, right, Cal?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what else happened on NXT? Javier Bernal called out Duke Hudson again, saying, you clearly have something in mind to take over, and he had a little Freudian slip of defending Duke U, but he beat Javier Bernal. They still haven't said anything about what's happening with Andre Chase. I'm very curious why they're building this idea of him just being away. I don't know.
Now I'm thinking he might come back because now they're building it to Duke's taking it over, but one of these days his master plan will be unveiled. So now I'm thinking he's coming back, but it is weird that they just sort of wrote him off.
Especially because they didn't write him off in a way where he got injured or he lost a match that required him to take a sabbatical or something along those lines. He just happened to lose a match and then was like, well, peace out, NXT. Huh? So that's weird. The Dyads still are wrestling, though, for people that want to actually leave. They lost to Gallus. And then we're retreading familiar ground again with the Creed brothers going, well, we want another shot at the belts. And Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo looking for another title shot, too. Whether we get a triple threat at Backlash, at Battleground, or they settle on a number one contenders match and we get probably, I would assume, D'Angelo and Stacks would be more so than Gallus, or maybe we get another team thrown in there, then that's being a four-way or whatever. Seems kind of like that's the direction going forward for that. But the Dyad losing isn't a good sign for Schism going forward. Joe Gacy and Ava Raine are pretty tight, but Dyad is really losing their steam on that front. Somebody who doesn't really have a whole lot of steam in my mind right now is Eddie Thorpe. I'm not quite buying it yet. He beat Damon Kemp. It's a thing. Ilya Dragunov beat Dijak by DQ. So that feud's continuing. Charlie Dempsey beat Tyler Bate. Kind of sets him up for that rematch, like we were all anticipating, that he might potentially get another shot at the NXT North American Championship. So I am fully expecting at this point it is Dempsey against Wesley at Battleground, and Dempsey wins. Hoping for that at least.
No.
You don't think so?
Joe Gacy.
Did they tease with Gacy? I didn't see that. Going for the NXT.
Then you skipped over the Tyler Bate match because Joe Gacy came out and was like, talking to Wesley, like,
oh, that's right. Yeah, I fucking forgot about it already. Yeah, okay, then maybe that's the case. That sucks. I wanted to be Dempsey, but Hank and Tank.
That match, didn't it?
Yeah, the Dempsey
Wesley
thing?
versus Dempsey.
Yeah, but I mean, I wanted Dempsey to win that belt. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Hank and Tank had their match. Tank Ledger lost a tooth during that. Yep. That was a thing. I did completely skip Nathan Fraser's home run truth segment, whatever it is. I can't remember the name of it.
Hard hitting home truth.
Sure. Our truth and second base. I don't like that gimmick. I think it's dumb. That's like some NXT 2.0 throw shit at the wall type nonsense.
I think it's fine. What they wanted to do with Lash Legend, but they seem to have just straight up given up on Lash Legend, so I think it's fine.
I'm curious what the hell their plan is with this Von Wagner, Mr. Stone. You're called up to the main roster, but you're not going to get drafted, and we're going to focus on having Mr. Stone be like, what's up with your head as a kid thing? What's happening there?
From Tuesday? I don't know.
A weird story, right?
Look, NXT sucks. Like,
yeah.
It's not great, but I have to watch it so intently that, like, very caught up in NXT, almost more so than any other WWE product.
Same here. Even though some of it's clearly forgettable, like the Joe Gacy thing. And Brad Breaker beat Trick Williams. We also,
that match was too long. That match was way too long. Breaker should have run right through him and then run right through Mello. I think they could have skipped over this part and just gone to Breaker getting called up, but he's not doing much for me as a heel, and he was, as a character, barely doing much for me as a babyface, but he's just sort of taken that blandness and said, "Grr, I'm evil now. That's what I'm gonna do." Like, not very much not my kind of thing.
A little flat, yeah. But you got a couple more weeks until Battleground, so they gotta try to spread things out like that. Let's wrap things up with Dynamite talk. Fill me in on the backstage segments and the promos and stuff. I don't have that information right in front of me. I've got just the match results, but Claudio Castagnoli beat Rey Fenix, starting things off. So that sets them up for a title shot in the future.
Yep, great opener, as you'd expect between these two. There's a lot of like rope walking and barricade walking by Phoenix, and Claudio's just so good at being a base for high flyers because he can do high flying stuff, but then he also will catch anyone going at any velocity. I think at one point Phoenix went for a suicide dive, and Claudio caught him into a gorilla press and just threw him around a bit. So, but that's good. That means that, he'll get an opportunity at the Ring of Honor tag team titles in the near future. Well, judging by the backstage reaction, Willie Uta thinks that he's going to get selected. It'd be fun if he doesn't.
They're really, I don't know if you watched Ring of Honor yet, they're really playing up on commentary that if he chooses Wheeler, I think he's going to choose Danielson, which would be amazing. And I want to watch that match.
Yeah. I mean, I would love it for Danielson. And there is also part of me that thinks, who was Claudio Castagnoli, the big tag team guy with in Ring of Honor for a while? Just okay, maybe just because it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from the Blackpool Combat Club. It just means that he gets a shot at the tag titles.
Yeah, I'd lose my mind if Chris Hero showed up, but Tony Khan's been very good to me over the last couple of weeks, so not out of the question.
I was surprised that Orange Cassidy did not lose that international championship to Daniel Garcia. I'll say that.
I almost think that was the wrong call. I think that was the one he could have lost it to.
No, I thought that was. I think that's absolutely the right decision that he retained the title, and it's not because of Cassidy. Even though I don't want this title reign to end just yet. He has great matches every single week. I don't want that to change at the moment. The reason why I think it's the right decision for Garcia to lose is because the story they're clearly telling with Garcia is that he's doing too much sports entertaining and it's costing him matches. He does that silly dance, and he started the match by putting his hands in his pockets to mock Cassidy. So every time that he does something which is not being the pro wrestler that he absolutely is, it's going to screw him over. And that's the story you have to keep telling until he decides to finally fuck all this sports entertainment bullshit and start, being the guy that we thought he was going to be 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm down for it. You just sold me on that. So yeah, I changed my mind.
But it's clearly, obviously, the story with Cassidy. It's got to come to an end at some point soon. But that's also the beautiful thing about it, is because he's been champion for so long and he's had so many defenses now that every match he has feels like the one that he could lose the title.
Mm-hmm.
There's that jeopardy to it. But I'm not ready for him to lose it just yet.
They're doing a really good job of making it seem too each time he just barely is and not even he's just barely retaining it every time, but it's harder and harder. So yeah, he put a little bit of a struggle up against so-and-so a couple weeks ago, and oh man, that was a harder defense than he's had with some other people. And then the next week is ooh, that was a really close near fall that time, but he still got the job done. And this time it was they even were saying on commentary Daniel Garcia had that match won and Cassidy squeaked by with a victory. So it does pretty much kind of go look, the more he's wearing himself down, the harder he's have to just catch a lucky pin or get lucky with somebody screwing something up or whatever, as opposed to him having what it takes to be able to still grit it out and beat every single person. So I don't know who they're going to have beat him for that belt, but yeah, the next title defense, whoever it is, they didn't say who he's going to fight next, right?
No.
I didn't think so. But whether it's at Double or Nothing or if it's on Dynamite or something ahead of time, I mean, yeah, the next person, whoever it is, it's unless it's somebody who very clearly is nah, he's not going to lose to somebody who's not signed to the company, who's just been doing nothing but losing on Dark for the past couple of years or something. If he's up against a Powerhouse Hobbs, or he's up against
Miro.
Take your pick, Miro, or a guy, I wouldn't buy, for instance, he would lose to the Blade. No. But I would totally buy that he would lose to even a
Switchblade,
White. Jay White, or a Juice Robinson, or he would lose to take your pick for a lot of the people on the roster. As long as you're above that Tony Nese line, essentially, not to crap on Tony Nese, but Ryan Nemeth isn't going to win that fucking championship. Miro very easily could, though. He's somebody along those lines. And, maybe it's an outsider, or maybe it's somebody who is part of another group like the Jericho Appreciation Society. I don't know, but I think the clock is definitely ticking for him. Great title reign, though.
Yeah.
It's my... Go ahead.
I love that the backstage segment later on with him and the Best Friends and Bandito prior to their trios title match. And after they go away, he just looks at Renee and says, I'm so tired, Renee.
Yeah.
And then Renee just says, yeah, me too, bud. It's just
and Bandito and Best Friends lose their shot at the trios titles against House of Black, which
what did you think of the
shocking.
lighting? Yeah, what did you think of the lighting, Rob?
Imagine this. Mood lighting, where you can actually still see what's going on without it being insanely disruptive.
You weren't anticipating that like Sin Cara would pop up where the Fiend or something?
Yeah.
I think the lighting was fantastic. This is a really unique way of telling stories, and I think if you keep it up with Malachi Black in general going forward, he can be a very fun character, and I think it's a great way for him to finally carve out a niche in the company.
I think it was a lukewarm introduction to these house rules, just because I think they made a joke. Well, Best Friends made a joke about the fact that they didn't know that the fourth rule existed because they did such a poor job of explaining it last week what the house rules were, and so they made a joke about, oh yeah, no witches at ringside, just to make sure that Julia Hart couldn't be there, and then they didn't really do too much with the additional rules like the 20 count and the rope break thing. I think they had one spot where Bandito went for the ropes and they didn't count because obviously the rope breaks weren't enforced. So yeah, I think it was a good match. I just don't feel like it made me feel super compelled that this is a great new stipulation type match. But we'll see. Maybe they'll do it with some other people going forward. I mean, the likelihood is that the challengers at Double or Nothing are probably going to be the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I think the concept is fantastic. I really like the idea of, you can manipulate that fourth rule because it's only fair and balance is all we have. The Best Friends fumbled it, and I think I love Orange Cassidy. I think sometimes they go a little too cheeky. Like, you're going to tell me the best thing they could do is go, hey, you know that chick that was just in a street fight? She can't come out to the ring. It's like, of course she's not coming out to the ring.
Yeah.
It was such a waste. But other than that, I like the presentation. I like this concept.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have necessarily booked the Julia Hart and Anna Jay match to be on the same show or anything. I don't know.
That was it was decent. It hit their flaws for the most part because you can do a lot of just like garbage wrestling in between. I think they both have something still. I think Julia's got obviously a fantastic entrance, and I think that she's thriving in the gimmick. It's just just that at the moment both their ring work isn't quite there, but it's something that will happen over time. They're both in their early 20s. There's a lot of development to be made there.
I want to be that asshole. If you're gonna have a pile of steel chairs and then largely miss the pile of steel chairs, please pick up your opponent and slam them on the pile of steel chairs and then do the finish. Other than that, fine. Good time was had by all. But like,
Brutus Creed is like, what are you talking about? If you miss something.
Well, at least he was Brutus Creed. He missed that dive horribly, and it was just gone for the rest of it. So that works out. But yeah, that was the only nitpick I have. This was fun, and I'm glad to see the women getting some time to shine. We're gonna have 5 hours of TV content. I want to see more in the women's division.
I certainly don't want to see more of the Outcasts thing, if that's the answer for that.
We will be seeing more of that next week because they've announced that a trios match that I thought they were going to have at Double or Nothing is actually happening next week.
Yeah, which I repeat myself a million times when it comes to that. You know how I feel.
You guys sound thrilled. What's the matter?
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I've been a fan of this feud for the most part. It just makes me wonder what the match is going to be at Double or Nothing. I presume it's Hayter defending against one of the members of the Outcast, but I don't know.
It'll be Hayter against Sheeta, and
probably.
No, because I
would be against it.
It could be, but you could also like maybe throw in a Ruby or something. But I'm getting a little worried that it's going to be a mixed tag for Jericho and Cole, and I just rather a one-on-one between Jericho and Cole first.
Even the Hayter and Sheeta thing, like we saw it Like the last time that Sheeta was around, she was hanging around the same group of people, and whether it's WWE or it's AEW, I don't want to see the same people feuding for 9 months unless you give me something that's really like, oh, this is an interesting twist and turn and freshening it up. And if you just go like, yeah, but it's been 2 months since we saw that thing or whatever, then it's really not that much of a difference. Because despite the fact that I forgot about like the Joe Gacy thing, I do have a solid enough memory when it comes to not feeling the enthusiasm, at least for those. But what else happened throughout this that you feel like talking about before we get to the main event? Well, anything else that stood out? Like, I mean, we talked about the Miro thing already popping up, and
Thunder Rosa's back. Roderick Strong will be having a Falls Count Anywhere match with Chris Jericho next week. And
yeah, with both Adam Cole and the JAS banned from the building.
That's true. Yeah, there's that.
Which doesn't really mean much if you can go outside the building to pin someone.
Right. Correct. So that's the first thing that everybody's thinking is, okay, you leave the building and then Adam Cole gets involved. I would just like to say, I don't know where Kyle O'Reilly is in his recovery, but my God, wouldn't that be great?
The two other big things that happened on this show. So there's the FTR segment where they were going to call out Mark Briscoe to apologise, and then Jarrett and Lethal and Sonjay and Satnam come out. They say that, they basically clarify the match is going to happen at Double or Nothing for the tag titles. Then Mark Briscoe comes out to try and make some peace between the two sides. Sonjay spits in Dax's eyes, so blinds him temporarily.
The only time I've ever seen the idea of like, oh, I didn't see what was happening and I accidentally hit you. Instead of it being like, I hit you with like a belt or I hit you with a super kick or any along those. I hit you with a pile driver. Like, what?
My eyes were closed, but I know where my body is.
Yeah, that's a weird way to do that. That execution was funny.
Yeah, but I think it was a very effective segment because the announcement on top of the tag title match is that Mark Briscoe is the special guest referee for that match.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good thing to just try and add a seed of doubt as to whose allegiances he'll potentially align to. I mean, realistically, what he should do is just call it down the middle and then right at the very end decide which side he's going to go with, which will almost certainly be FTR. I don't imagine Lethal and Jarrett are going to win the tag titles, but still, it should be a fun match. And then the other thing before the main event was they decided to devote 4 segments to the 4 pillars, and like some just video packages for MJF and Jack Perry, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, which were way, 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 way more effective than any of the other segments, any of the promo segments they've had so far. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this online, and it's hard to disagree with them in that I don't necessarily think the overall feud has been bad, but it has to be said that at least on a couple of these guys' side, they've demonstrated they're not ready for main event level championship matches.
Yeah, I liked the like the little vignettes that they had. In particular, I liked how they had Christian say the reason I hitched my wagon to Jungle Boys because I thought that he had a lot of potential and all, because that was a good way to like sort of bridge that gap in some ways and be like, oh, look, even the guy that he's been feuding with recognizes his talent and all. But the promos, yeah, there's a wooden element to it that you get MJF to cut a promo and it's amazing every single time. And you get the other guys, and I think Sammy particularly is like, yeah, he's got it. But Jungle Boy and Darby, when they grab a mic, I don't feel it yet.
Oh, I'm the complete opposite. I think Sammy's the worst out. Well, actually, Jungle Boy's the worst out of all of them. Sammy's terrible. He's a terrible promo. Darby's the best promo out of the other 3. I think a country mile. I think he speaks with a depth to him. Sammy actually has a decent story to tell. It's just that he's very annoying, and it's good for being a heel. But like, a lot of his stuff that he's saying, especially in these segments, are about how he's like how he came up from nothing and how like he's wants to show people that they can believe in him, and he always puts his body on the line, and that's like, well, this is all babyface stuff, but you're so unlikable. Like, it's such a weird, he's such a weird dynamic in terms of a character. Jack he's so far off it in terms of a promo and a character. He needed Christian, and now he doesn't have Christian anymore. Yeah, this was sink or swim for him, and I think that he's going to be sinking down to the mid card for quite a couple of years after this. It's a shame because he is such a good wrestler, but that can only take you so far if you're wanting to get towards the main event. So I think you need to heel turn properly.
I feel like Max obviously is tops. Darby, I think, is number 2 because he's so confident in being Darby Allin. It's like Jeff Hardy in that Jeff Hardy's promos are a lot of nonsense, but they make sense in the mind and in the vibe of Jeff Hardy. And Sammy is very good at being Sammy, even though, one of you said he's great, the other one said he's annoying, and both things are exactly hitting the way they need to. The reason Jack sucks at the moment is because he doesn't know who he is. He was Jungle Boy, who was supposed to be a mute, for so long that he hasn't stepped into a role as, okay, who is Jack Perry, the wrestler, as we get away from the Jungle Boy character and aesthetic of all that. I think this match will be great. I think this is the right time to do the match. Because at some point you have to put them out there and just let them go. Because you don't want it to be a case of, oh, but you keep putting all the focus on CM Punk and all the guys like that. And what about Jungle Boy? They're getting their chance now. And then they can all go and reassess after this.
Yeah, we're all in agreement. That match is going to kick ass because they're all great in the ring. But when it comes to the promo stuff, like the Darby Allin stuff, I always find it more like whiny and kind of, it gives me the vibe. It makes sense, but it gives me the vibe of like that emo kid type of thing where it's just sort of like, the world doesn't get me and I'm so fucking deep and whatever. And then I go like, shut up. Whereas opposed to like the Sammy Guevara stuff, it is a little weird that he's cutting like more of a babyface promo when he's definitively the other heel in the match. So I don't know why they went in that direction. I guess they are harping too much on the idea of just like, let's pull the veil down and talk about how these are like the 4 guys that, outside of kayfabe, but we all know are being pushed in that pillars kind of direction. But yeah, I agree about the Jungle Boy thing. I mean, maybe it would help considerably. Maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. If he were to ditch the Jungle Boy thing entirely,
he needs to
cut the hair and change the ring gear and stop being Jungle Boy Jack Perry and be like, all right, let's turn him heel or something where we need like a reset to be able to go backward and then reassess again. Like kind of make you miss a little bit of this version of the character or something. I don't know, but
I wouldn't, just because I think the only thing he has right now is that entrance.
That is fair.
I mean, the entrance song's great, so yeah.
And that crowd participation. I think you strip that away, and then he's just Guy, and like he's just a guy, like bland as all hell, and so, but this has already stripped a lot away from him and exposed him. This is, I mean, I'm just gonna put it out there, it's bad booking. I don't usually say that too much about AEW, but booking should express the positives and hide the weaknesses, and they've placed Jungle Boy's weaknesses just under a microscope the last couple of weeks, and done a lot of damage to the character that would actually come out of Revolution really, really strong. And that's I'd say it's definitely not over. He's a young guy and he'll get better as time moves on, but hopefully he takes advantage of this main event match, because it's probably the last one he's going to have for a while.
I would say that even the story and the way they've chosen to tell this story has accentuated a lot of the negatives, because why haven't everybody go up to Jungle Boy and be like, you're not charismatic. You can't talk. I understand that that's worked for so long, and it's been a lot of the ooh aspect of wrestling since the pipe bomb 12 years ago. But like, you don't always need to go there. I think that's a lot of the problem when you're telling stories, specifically with Max. But I'm looking forward to the match, and I'd love, again, if we weren't building up to this 2024 deal, I'd love to see Darby take it. I'd like a short run for Darby Allin as the AEW champion. He's a guy who will always do better in the chase, but I think for that chase to matter, you gotta give him something every now and again. But yeah, obviously Max will eventually come away, so that the other three guys need to shine in the ring, and I just hope that they take advantage of what they've got.
Yeah, one final thing before we talk about the main event, the other segment I forgot about is the Christian promo with Tony Schiavone, and the heat for that promo. I mean, like, I know we talk about how much heat Dom Mysterio gets in WWE, and he definitely does get a huge amount, but this was comparable, if not greater, than that. Like, Christian's the top heel in wrestling in my eyes right now. And especially to get to the point where the crowd is chanting Edge is better at him, like towards the back end of that promo. Just so not true. Like this, again, it's just Edge is great, but like these sort of moments make me feel like, yeah, this guy just gets it. And I'm looking forward to the match that he has with Wardlow, even though I think it's pretty inevitable that he won't win it.
Oh my god, I think he needs to.
I wish he did. Yeah, but I'm going to be rooting for him to win it. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So nothing happened in the main event.
No.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't have a good match. Nobody turned. Nothing. Yeah, you know. So that's not that. No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus Christ! What a violent steel cage match. I mean, it was basically the moment that you bring out the steel chair wrapped in barbed wire. You kind of know you're in for a bit of a time. And yeah, it was like, you know, both guys bleeding. To be fair, one of the guys only started bleeding properly until after the match, or right at the very end of the match. So, but Moxley obviously was bleeding buckets, as is typical fashion. Had like moves being done on broken glass and a V-trigger through the steel cage wall, which I don't know how Kenny Omega's groin is still attached to his body after that. Because, Jesus, you know, he had multiple groin surgeries during his hiatus, and just to see his like half his body outside the ring and the other one just like attached to the attached by that little rung of the cage is yeah, that was worrying to see. But it all ends up building up to Moxley grabs the screwdriver, goes to use it. Don Callis pulls it away from him. Omega hits the one-winged angel. 1-2. Callis puts a screwdriver in his face, and Moxley covers him, gets the victory. Don Callis has turned on Kenny Omega, but I don't think he sided with Blackpool Combat Club.
No, I think it's more of an anti-Omega thing than a pro-BCC.
Well,
I'm going to be pro somebody, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. Yeah, well, we don't need to go too much detail, but I'm pretty sure it's pro United Empire thing, I imagine. Pro Will Ospreay.
The king of Winnipeg, bro. Like, I think this needed to happen because we knew Omega couldn't turn full face until he got rid of Callis. I'm not happy that like we're gonna get more of Don Callis. I was actually just like laughing at the idea of, would have thought in 2023 Don Callis would be one of the premier characters on wrestling TV. Where we're at.
I mean, I love it. I think he's such a great character, and him siding up with like Will Ospreay and the rest of United Empire, just basically, you know, the promo is going to be down the line is the fact that he knows that Omega's body is shutting down, especially like Omega was giving giving interviews recently saying that he doesn't know how much longer he's going to be doing this. So he decided to hitch his wagon to the next biggest horse in the race, and he decided to side up with Will Ospreay as the guy that would fill Omega's shoes as the greatest wrestler in the world at some point. And so, yeah, that's the story you tell. In the meantime, it kind of will probably rule Callis out a little bit, but you still have BCC versus the Elite. We still haven't seen Hangman in a while, so wonder what it'll be like when he comes back. But yeah, this story is like so entertaining so far, and if it keeps producing matches like this, then we're in for a good time come Double or Nothing, and whatever match they end up having.
Jon Moxley had a full career before he went to AEW, and there's an argument to be made that Kenny Omega is his greatest rival and greatest opponent. It's wild how much these two men have given to this company. Callum did a wonderful job of hitting all the bullet points. I just want to say again, I thought Omega was hurt, legit, from that V-trigger. I was so scared that, oh no, it's all just going to go downhill, because that was a violent and very self-destructive move. Moxley's, you don't have to love his style, and I don't necessarily love Broken Glass, but Moxley is the best at still being able to have a TV wrestling match and incorporate violence. He's taken what Mick Foley did and moved it to this generation, and I think it's so much fun to watch. This whole angle is tremendous to watch. Bryan Danielson taken up for Regal has been tremendous to watch. The Young Bucks and Wheeler and Claudio just sort of being on the outskirts. Fun too, because they'll put on a great match, but I've loved everything about this. I loved everything about this show. This is one show. Raw is a slog to get through. 3 hours is too long. SmackDown's hit or miss. NXT for the large part sucks. Dynamite rarely is bad. It might be a little meh, but it's never bad. And this week's episode set the stage for a great summer. And I am so excited to see what's next for everyone.
And that's the week. That's the hot tags. So, as always, let us know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you are hitting us up with the main event that we did before, and staying tuned to the main events for next week. We might do something title-based. I don't know. And kind of thinking about maybe the idea of having this discussion that we talked about before about like who do you associate with certain championships. I think that could be kind of fun. But depending on when we record for that, and we're going to record another Darkcast over the course of this next week, and then, of course, after that, we got all the pay-per-views and stuff, so we're trying to balance things out a little bit like that. But you will get all those things coming your way, so stay tuned to smarkoutmoment.com for all that. Make sure you're following Facebook and Twitter at smarkoutmoment, going to the website as well for the content that's over on that side, because it's not just the podcast, it's also the website side of things. And there's also the other website under a mango tree, which is fanboysanonymous.com, where you can find all the geek culture content on the entertainment industry, like movies and TV shows and comics and video games and everything on that front, including the Blueprint Project, which, of course, I am working at constantly to settle on the most epic and gold standard best versions of all the different things you see on your screen here, like Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles and Star Wars and all. Been putting a lot more effort into, more than anything else, the Power Rangers side of it. Absolute Power Rangers, the Mighty Morphin Epic, but also the Batman, A Nighttime Story, 100 records from the Wayne Foundation archives. Chapter 4 is entirely written up. Got that knocked out the other day. Been doing some AI artwork to try to figure out how to get some of those graphics settled, and then trying to Photoshop some other things here and there. I'm always trying to step up the game from each one and try to incorporate a little bit more concept art and to show you some more visuals instead of just necessarily my face. But that will be recorded sometime over the course of the next week probably as well. And then I'll be hopefully editing that and getting that up by the end of the month. No definitive date quite yet on when I am going to be able to pull that off, because each time I do one of these, I end up adding more and more information, and then I go, oh, the first one was like kind of a half hour. The second one was like, took a while to make sure that it was around a half hour. Third one, I ended up being in an hour and 50 minutes that I knocked down to 58 minutes or so. And I'm already looking at this one and going, it's pretty long. But I got a lot to say. So, hey, if you're interested in that stuff, go check that all out and make sure you are showing your support. I cannot stress enough, the more that you hit the like button on those things, not obviously you don't just hit it over and over and over again, but make sure you hit the like button on each of those. Make sure you are sharing things. If it's just a quick retweet, or it's something like, you post on like a message board or like a Reddit subreddit or something along those lines, or you put it up on your own Facebook, you never know who's going to continue to pass those along. And a split second of you clicking that button might make a huge, huge difference. So thank you to everybody who does that. Thank you to everybody who shows your support for things like through the Patreon and all, for Fanboys Anonymous and Smark Out Moment. Go ahead and check out the other things under the link tree that you can see on amangotree.com or anthonymango.com. Follow me at my personal accounts at Tony Mango. Follow Robin Callum as well.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Police. On all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. You can check out my work on Fightful and my work on WrestleZone. And as becoming a running gag on the podcast, dudepolice.com, forever coming soon. Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at Weekmeister14. Over on smarkmoment.com, every Saturday I post the Power Rankings, which is my rankings of the WWE superstars over the course of the week from 1 to 10, basically seeing who's done the best for the week based on the results of the shows. And then also we have now fully launched the Fantasy League stuff at www.fantasyleague.com and over on Smark Out Moment, so you can check out who is leading the way after the first week of points being scored. So check all that stuff out. That encapsulates like the stuff that happened at Backlash, and we'll run through up until the end of SmackDown, and we're well on the way to the first mini break at the pay-per-view prediction contest at Night of Champions. So head over to www.fantasyleague.com to follow along.
All right, everybody, that's it for episode number 597 of the Hot Tags. We will be seeing you next with probably we'll end up recording, I'm assuming, the Mount Rushmore before we do whatever the other main event might be, but might be the other way around. I don't know. Maybe it'll end up being the Darkcast. It'll be the next thing that we have up on here. And if you aren't aware of the Darkcast things, you're not paying attention to the things that are being posted on the website specifically, because, you can't really see that on your feed unless you're part of the members only side of it. There's another way that you want me to alert you. I don't really know a better way other than to be like, hey, look, here's multiple ways that you can see that. But if you do want to know what we do with that, then, let me know, and then I'll try to figure something out. But kind of experimenting a little bit maybe this next time around with posting things on the community board on YouTube about like a direct link to that. And then obviously if you are on that tier, then you can check it out. And if you're not, then you still won't get access to it. But I don't know. I'm up for experimenting on that side of things. So anyway, that is all happening next week. That's it for this week. SmackDown's tonight. Hopefully it's a good episode. Let us know what you think. And we will see you next time, everybody. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.